Let me start with a quote from the late great Ambasing. Ooh, that's good. You know what else is good? This video's topic. Lately I've noticed this mysterious feeling after completing the games I love. A feeling that I can only describe as a stillness. It's a feeling where everything feels like nothing, but nothing feels like now. The present. Man, that sure do make a lot of sense. Now, I'm not sure if you felt this feeling before, so I'll try my best to describe it to the fullest of my abilities. So basically, it's the feeling where you just sit there in stillness without a single thought in mind, right after a game ends. But despite how close it resembles the description of the Big Depression, this feeling feels good. Now, of course, I've done my research and I've had my fair share of times actually feeling this feeling. And if my memory serves me right, the moment I became aware of this feeling was when I played a particular dystopian game set in a certain city that starts with the letter N, with a particularly big time actor. You know what? December 10th, Cyberpunk came out, and oh boy did I have a jolly fun time. Here's a complete summary of my Cyberpunk experience if you never played this game before. First of all, it was fun, period. Second of all, the story's sublime. The characters, well acted, and they actually feel like real human beings with firm values that you can detest or support. And most importantly, the game is broken. A big factor of my enjoyment actually comes from seeing the dumbass shit that happens in the game, so that's a compliment. The thing is, I just want to tell you that I had such a fun time with Cyberpunk. So much fun that it made me put Cyberpunk as one of my favorite games ever, alongside Sims Pets. That game was lit too. And although the game itself, shooting people and stuff like that, was what made me consider it my favorite game, the nail in the coffin, the part that made me confidently say that it's my favorite, comes from one specific moment in the game.
Hey V, how's life out there in the desert? Getting some sun? Some fresh air in those lungs?
Okay, I know what you're thinking. Technically, it's not even in the game or from the game, so why say it is? Second of all, you're telling me the moment that defines your Cyberpunk experience was the credits scene. Of all the scenes you could pick, and oh boy, you could name a lot of fucking scenes, especially those scenes. After I spent the whole game being a schizo, I managed to escape Sleazy Night City, even with my condition. With such a dreary and depressing ending, seeing the credits roll just hit me differently. It was an influx of emotions that I didn't feel throughout the bulk of the game, in that I had so much fun and awe looking at the beautiful scenery and storytelling throughout the game, but this just feels different. Spoilers ahead for Cyberpunk 2077. In my ending, the ending that I got, V booted Keanu from his psyche, but this came with a cost, and that he has only 6 months to live. Will he live or will he die? Well, we're not gonna tell you, because we're gonna give you this instead. But no worry guys, this is a credit scene like no other. As you can see, there are video recordings from our friends. This right here was the scene where I ascended even more than actually playing the game. The thought of just ending right there after the credits and not being able to interact with V and other characters I've become emotionally attached with just grounds me. Maybe this feeling comes from the idea that I really won't experience the same feelings and attachment I had with the characters again in further playthroughs, because, you know, it just won't hit the same anymore. This is the end of the Cyberpunk story, and the game shows you that it's the end. Now, what is this feeling? And why of all the times in Cyberpunk banging gay hookers in Jig Street did I feel that during the end of the game, more specifically in the credits? To answer that, I thought of other games that made me feel this way too. Like this very obscure zombie game, I'm pretty sure you haven't heard of it. The Last of Us was the game. It was such the game that one of its actors got sent death threats because her acting was that good. Bought this game because I wanted to experience what it feels like to finish a horror game. Yes, this was, and I think, the first horror game I've dared myself to finish. Knowing damn well that it's my first time playing a horror game, I had to do something unique. And so I did. In that first playthrough, I basically got through the entirety of the game with the lowest volume possible. I figured that to rid myself off of the jump scares, lowering the volume would at least impede some shock factor coming from the jump scares itself. And boy, do I tell you that it was a foolproof method. But this, of course, comes with a cost. Lowering the volume also meant that I was totally clueless of the main plot, especially Joel and Ellie's relationship, which a big bulk of their character building comes from gameplay dialogue, which I can't hear. Now with that in mind, when the ending comes, I don't know how the fuck we got here. But despite how clueless I was, I instantly understood Joel and Ellie's connection. And when the credits rolled, boom, that feeling hit me again like a motherfucker. It was one of the top gaming moments sponsored by Subway. Now there might be a cause to this feeling, the feeling that I've talked about in this whole video. Both Cyberpunk and The Last of Us are set in this dystopian world, meaning that players are likely to get hit with the big sad because of the overarching themes of being in a post-apocalyptic or a fucking world where zombies infest the world. Hell yeah. Maybe that's why I feel the way I feel during the credits. The credits serves as this emotional catharsis for what I've experienced throughout the game. But really, who knows where and what this feeling truly is. But there's something I realize about this as I write the script for this video. I've actually only felt this feeling when the game absolutely ends. Let me elaborate. Last year, I was really looking forward to playing God of War Ragnarok. I played the first one back in 2018 and it was a blast to play. So it's really natural for me to have high expectations for the sequel. And boy, did it deliver. Now, even though it delivered, did I feel that feeling? No. Although it was one of the best games I've ever played hands down, when the game ended, I didn't feel that same feeling I had with Cyberpunk and The Last of Us. It's weird, I mean, for great games made by AAA studios that have a solid reputation, you know, one could expect that you should feel the same way as you did for other games that you love. But this one, I didn't feel it. I mean, there's no lapse in great storytelling or core gameplay mechanics coming into the sequel. In fact, it was improved on greatly. But why don't I feel the same feeling that I felt with the other games? You know, technically God of War Ragnarok didn't end. You could still play the game even after the story ends. You were not left with an absolute end to the story. Now, I'm not gonna say that they should have done one thing better or another. After all, having an end game is a great way to keep people engaged. Like, come on, people waited 4 years for Ragnarok and all you got is, what, 23 hours of content? Bro, at least give me like 50 hours. Again, endgames and letting the player interact with the game world after the credits rolled are purposeful, but that's the problem. Letting the player continue what was meant to be the end of the story breaks the illusion of what could be an impactful story. But to say that Ragnarok or even God of War, the first one, doesn't even have an impactful story would be such a blatant lie. Plus, many guys would fuck me in the ass. More often than not, great stories are those which have the hardest goodbyes. Ragnarok's approach was to deliver both an impactful story and rich gameplay, and I can say I blamed him. It fucking works. But there's a part of me that wants their games to just end there, without interacting with the world after the ending, without an end game. Those absolute endings are what makes the story even more impactful, and it's what caused that feeling that I had with Cyberpunk and also The Last of Us. It shouldn't end there, but it has to.